Hey guys, we're back with another incredible episode of Career Talks. You ready? Hey everybody, welcome back to another session or episode of Career Talks. Definitely excited about tonight. Met this incredible, talented young lady. We took I guess you would say we took a program together. Was online. I won't talk about the program specifically, but then she reached out to the group and kind of mentioned doing like some accountability partners. So a bunch of us was like, yes, let's do it. Come to find out, she's also here in the Florida area as well. So a bunch of us, we kind of keep each other accountable by going through, and it's really all about podcasting and learning this field and leveraging the exposure you get from this and really adding value to this. But tonight is not about that. Tonight is about a very, very definitely important topic. She is a VP of operations here in Florida in executive leadership. Very, very talented, and I'm super excited about this topic. It may be a tough topic for some folks to swallow, so if you're watching this live or hear the replay, but I definitely want you to chime in, give your feedback. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them on while we're here talking, and I will ask this young lady to fill those in the midst of our conversation. But without further ado, let me bring on Miss Kareen Turner to the screen. How are you?
I am good. How are you this evening, Orlando?
Doing amazing. First and foremost, Thank you so much for accepting the invite, connecting. It's just crazy how we connected in
Yes.
on that. I guess it was a 5-day challenge. And,
Yep. It is. It's incredible. 5-day challenge, incredible connections. You're one of them. And so I thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast tonight.
No, absolutely. So before we dive into the topic, share with folks a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. So I heard the intro. So again, thank you for that intro. I am a vice president of operations. Most of my career has been in healthcare hospitals. And right now I'm on the health and wellness side, and where I work for a company that offers digital wellness, digital fitness, and nutrition. So I am passionate about healthcare. That's my day job. My schooling, I am a registered dietitian, a certified registered dietitian as well. And so that is part of what fuels my passion in the health and wellness field. I am also a leadership excellence coach, leadership development coach, and love to talk about conversations that, as you said, are sometimes hard, but incredibly needed in order to move us forward in our organizations.
Love it. So with your background in executive coaching and coaching overall development, topic of tonight, the color of leadership.
Yes. Wow.
So what made you choose that topic? I love it. When we spoke in setting this up, I was like, yeah, we're about to touch on some things that, it's not the first of its kind conversation, but it's still super relevant. It will continue to be so, especially in this corporate landscape. So what made you choose this topic? What about this?
It's been a passion of mine as I have moved up in my career through different titles, promotions to where I am now. And just noticing that as I have moved up in careers, there are less and less people who look like me sitting at the table. And always wondering why, and having an inkling of why, but really wanting to dive in and see, is it just me who feels this way? Is there something that's missing? Is there a deficiency that is happening on behalf of Black women or women of color? And as I dived into the topic and truly started to become educated, and as you said, there's more and more of these conversations happening, and I know they are uncomfortable. However, it's what we need to have so that we don't continue the current norms of whether it is intentional or unintentional racial and gender biases, the consequences are the same. And they not only hurt the individual, but the organizations as well.
Awesome. So, with your research,
Yeah.
if you have any statistics on currently what that looks like, and what I mean by that also, what level are we talking? Mid
Yeah.
levels, C suite. If you can share that with the folks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I start off this conversation by saying, I'm going into the assumption, and I hope everyone joins me in that assumption, that it is not about qualifications, but rather about access. So this conversation isn't about, are they not perhaps as educated? Are they not as skilled or qualified? Research again continues to show that women of color have a great deal of ambition, and in terms of a statistic from an incredible article I read, which I can share with you later, Orlando, and you can share it with your audience. But 64% of Black women polled have the determination to reach the top of their field, compared to that's more than half of the reported statistics for non-Hispanic white women. The same high level in Asian American women, Hispanic Latina women as well, high levels of ambition. So it's not a lack of determination, ambition, or qualification, but yet we see that only 3% of C suite level positions are occupied by women of color. And diving into Black women, at about 1%, less than 1% of C suite positions. When we're looking at senior vice president positions, we're looking at about 28%, and that has generally remained steady. And again, this is a study that was done by leanin.org.
Wow. So, the larger number that stuck out obviously is the 64% of ambition.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how you get that statistics based on the surveys, right? Just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Based on a
it's like,
survey. Hmm.
so it's like saying 64% of women were saying, yes, I would love to move up,
Yeah.
but I can't or won't, or, because of X.
Yeah.
What's the second layer? What's stopping that 64% from decreasing to where that 3% increases, that 28% increases?
Absolutely. Great question. So, two words that I have come to truly lean into are sponsorship and mentorship. And we can start with mentorship, and I'm sure so many people here are familiar with it, but we will be sure we're all referring to it in the same way. But mentorship, I like to think of that as an um, internal skills, like developing skill sets. So, working with someone who is helping you develop skills, helping you navigate corporate politics, helping you, guiding you, providing advice on different situations, giving feedback on your performance from an objective eye, and usually not someone who you work with. And then we look at sponsorship. Sponsorship is, I like to think of that as more external. So this is someone who is advocating specifically on your behalf, promoting you, providing you with access to their connections, helping to increase your visibility, and always having your name and your talent, your qualifications, and your experiences at the front of mind, so that when a conversation opens, they are thinking about you and think about your name.
I love that. I love that. So let's jump back to the first one.
Yeah.
When it comes to, well, what you're saying is developing the business acumen to kind of navigate the corporate landscape we're in.
Yeah.
That is like something to my core that I love to work on with individuals. It's
Hmm.
especially African Americans. It is tough, right? It is
Yeah.
tough through what we've been through, etc. But what are some what are some ways to develop that? Is it direct contact with a sponsor that they're giving those? Like, how do you train and develop business acumen?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of that comes from experience, trial and error. Nothing helps to prepare you more than being in it. Definitely, education has some preparation, but truly, when I left my master's degree, my first leadership position, like, my mind was just blown at all the things like, I don't remember studying this in a book, or I don't remember this in my, real life skills development. And so really being in it and putting yourself in it. And that is one thing that I will say that has helped my career, is putting myself in situations where I am uncomfortable. I don't necessarily know the answer, but I have faith in myself that I'm going to figure it out. And I think that is what has helped a lot of women of color who have been able to advance their careers, is stepping forward in challenging situations and experiencing it. So a lot of it is on the job training. And then, yes, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And then I was going to say, truly, then working with a mentor. When you are, we don't have the answers to everything. And so, whether that mentor is a fellow colleague, I believe in surrounding yourself with people who have your best interest at mind, but who are also ready to let you know when you need to course correct. So, having colleagues who you can trust in situations and asking for their advice, working with a mentor, again, not necessarily always within the corporation, because sometimes that can get a little bit sticky. And that's actually one of the reasons why I became a leadership coach, is that I had a mentorship situation with someone who I was working with. And then there was friction between our teams, our departments, that led to friction with us. And I was just like, oh, and so ends the mentorship relationship. And so seeking counsel internally, of course, finding someone who you could trust, but also truly leaning externally to find someone who is not as closely connected to your day to day work. But that is, I have a mentor now who has been invaluable to me in the past year, year and a half, with this situation is just so complex, and I need to have that person who's helping me see outside of it, helping me to problem solve, connecting me as well to, um, if, for example, put it in a spreadsheet, Karen, create your Excel spreadsheet, like getting that granular, because sometimes you can't see the trees for, you can't see the forest for the trees. I'm terrible with quotes. You can't see the forest for the trees. And so having someone who can help guide you through that is another way to help build that business acumen.
So you said a couple of things there. I don't know if anyone picked up on it. You said connecting me. So correct me if I'm wrong. Are you initiating those relationships?
Yes. So it's twofold.
Mhm.
I will never put the burden, because I think so much of the burden is on the individual. And I will say that, probably about, well, it's actually been a while. 6 or 7 years ago, I approached someone in a C suite position and said, I would love to take you out to lunch. It was a male. I would love to take you out to lunch because I have ambitions. Surprise, surprise. I was a director at the time. I have ambitions to move up in the organization. And even if not in this organization, I would love to ask you some questions and get guided. And he turned me down so well to go out to lunch. She was like, "Why don't we meet in here?" But to build myself up to have that conversation with a C-suite leader who, as a director, that's 2 or 3 levels above me in this case, in that situation. And so building myself up to have that conversation, and then recognizing, oh, it's not lunch, and probably because it's so complicated. He's a male, I'm a female. Like, there's just so much in that. Having the burden be on the employee, having the burden be on the female in that situation is complex. And so I always urge, your human resources, people, departments, to formalize these structures so that they're not informal, because I can tell you with certainty that other males had gone into that same office and said, let's go out for lunch. And yeah, I don't have any meetings. Let me grab my keys and let's get going. But it's a different dynamic and a different conversation. And those informal structures are what allow certain groups to move up and move forward to get those sponsors that they're looking for. But those informal conversations hold us back. Some other groups back, like myself as a Black woman, are sometimes held back because we're not included in them. And the burden lies on us to have and approach those conversations. I have done that. I will continue to do that. That's my personality, but the onus shouldn't fall on me alone. There should be some kind of structure and system within an organization.
And
That's
just,
yeah, go ahead.
no,
I
I'm sorry,
keep
sorry,
talking all the
sorry.
time.
No, I'm listening. I love it. I love it.
No, I was just going to say that said,
Good.
if you are looking to work with someone outside of your organization, then yes, absolutely, that would be up to you to create that network and bring in those sponsors or that mentorship yourself. But how an organization can help grow talent, because you don't want to lose talent. You know the stats of how much time, energy, cost it is to bring in to bring in a new team member, train them, find out that they're talented, and then only to lose them. And so, what can we do to help keep really qualified talent?
And just to bring some context around that story you told us,
Mhm.
um, was it an African American male?
No, it was a Caucasian male. And
Got it.
and I will say, to complete the story, so we did end up having conversations. They were in his office over a period of 3 or 4 months. So he found ways to fulfill my request, which I very much appreciated. But that first initial conversation was so nerve wracking for me. And then I felt as if I had asked something wrong. I became very self-conscious as well about it, because that initial, like, oh, we're not gonna go out for lunch, but I can certainly meet with you here in my office.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So now with that, to go back to that 64%,
Hmm.
how much do you think imposter syndrome goes into that, to making that connection, connecting me to whoever in the C-suite? How much of that you think may play into that number being so large, having the ambition but not maybe executing?
Absolutely. I know I've said that a lot, but you're so spot on with imposter syndrome. And I can go back to that situation again. Part of I probably wrote out what I was going to say 3, 4, 5 dozen times. And I had my little notebook with me so that I wouldn't get off of my script. I knew everything I was going to say. But the reason I was hesitating was that I hadn't seen anyone else like me take the step I was going to take. And in fact, some of my colleagues who are African American females are just like, I don't think you should venture down that road, or putting yourself out there is a risk. So there was that. I hadn't seen anyone else do it. And then initially, when he said no to lunch, I did feel like I had somehow crossed a line that I didn't deserve to go into, if that makes any sense. That I'd entered an environment that I shouldn't have entered in. And that for lack of a better term, the good old boys club where we go to
Yeah.
lunch, we go to golfing, is not open to me. And so it reinforces some of what it did at the time, reinforce some of what I felt, that I'm on an impossible journey. What makes me think that I should be the one to have these ambitions? I'm truly not qualified. This person has, a finance degree, they're in accounting, so many different things that came through my mind all in that moment. And in fact, he did say, like, well, as a registered dietitian, your ambitions are probably too high out of reach. And so I'm thankful to say that no, that has not been the case. And I know that, but imposter syndrome, I know, affects, again, not just women of color, men as well. I know battle imposter syndrome, but that is part of it. When you don't see people who look like you, when you are not necessarily publicly praised for the work that you do, because studies have shown that women of color, specifically Black women, are often not recognized publicly. They're not given the credit for their work, but on the other hand, held to a higher standard.
Wow. Well, and as you were saying that, I was looking, just running through my career,
Hmm.
being in talent acquisition for 20 years, and I'm like, I've never reported to an African American.
Yes.
I've been in one company that I recall early in my career
Hmm.
where one of the C-suite gentlemen in HR was African American, and then there's been several, but not at the highest height.
Yep.
Um, and rarely have I reported to men. So
Okay.
yeah, which is
Interesting.
odd. Yeah, so which is
Yeah.
which is pretty odd. Maybe it could be industry specific. I don't know.
Hmm.
But just dawned on me as you were breaking down statistics and stuff. I was like, wow. So wanted to jump to a question that is for you.
Yes.
So Quandra Gaines, thank you for the question. It's do you have any suggestions on how to select a mentor?
Yes, absolutely. Lots of conversations. So you probably already have someone who you have a natural affiliate affinity for that you find yourself listening to them in meetings. If you're specifically talking about a work related mentor, you have communicated them with meetings or you see them interacting with their team members and appreciate their leadership style. And so those are you want to know that they are a safe place, and oftentimes you'll hear other people talk about them as being someone to go to. You'll see and hear them interacting with their team members and how they interact with their team members, and if you happen to be in meetings, you'll see if they're thoughtful, considerate, and wise. And then just approaching them and having a conversation with them, not necessarily jumping right into, I would love to have a mentor relationship, but test it out. Ask a question if you see them, walking in the hallway. Hey, I'd love to have lunch with you, or do you mind if I ask you a question? And see how they react. See if the advice that they give you is advice that resonates with you. You can have, of course, as I said, more than one mentor, but you probably will go through a few people before you land on someone who you feel comfortable with and who you trust. That's the most important quality and qualification.
So would you select someone, and I'll like peel this question back a little
Mhm.
bit. Um, would you select someone based on your career path? Like I'm an accountant, I report to the controller or the senior VP or whatever it may be,
Mhm.
or am I looking at someone maybe in HR and just be like, wow, they've ascended to where I would like to be. How did you adjust that, or how did you personally, uh, you know, chose to pick your mentor or pursue a relationship?
Yeah, I would say it was the latter of what you said. It wasn't someone who was directly in my field. So my current mentor is not in my industry or in my field, but is someone who has wise advice. There you go. That's the word. Who has wise advice that can apply anywhere. And that's part of mentorship, is helping you to develop the skill of navigating corporate politics and the feedback that you're looking for. And that's what I was saying, like that wise counsel, that it doesn't matter if they know your field. People management, relationship building is across all industries, across all careers and organizations. And that's usually what you're going to a mentor for, is building that up. If you are looking for assistance with hard skills, like you said, if I'm in finance or as a registered dietitian, I'm looking to increase my clinical nutrition skills, for example, then certainly yes, find someone in your field who may be a peer as well in this case, who just knows a lot and you respect their knowledge. And then of course you have the opportunity to get courses, register for courses, go to conferences. Conferences are also great places to connect with mentors and potential sponsors as well.
Here's a question for you. And this is just your personal assessment or awareness of it. In this current climate, as we're talking about African Americans and culture and all the stuff that's went through in the past 2 years,
Mhm.
do you think we're still in a state where African Americans who are at that C-level suite are afraid, or just say, "Hoof, I've made it. You got to make it yourself." It's not that each one teach one relationship to I'm making it my mission to make sure I get the next brother or sister up, whatever level they can achieve, or it's just like, hey, I got mine, get yours.
I That person probably does exist for sure, but let me tell you, on LinkedIn, I have been so encouraged to see C-suite leaders congratulating people who have ascended in their corporation, their organization. When I see, I got promoted or I got hired at this company, to see a C-suite leader of color, a woman of color, a man of color, congratulate them, to see the posts that are coming into my feed about career advice, reaching out to me, the articles that are being written. I think that there is such a movement right now where we understand that we reach across, we reach down, we even reach up to help all of us grow. Because as I've shared in other videos, when when we don't build diversity at the highest levels of our organizations, that also reflects in our politics. It reflects at the city level, state level, at the national level. And that has consequences for our marginalized communities, our underrepresented communities. And I do believe that there is a correlation with the lack of diversity at C-suite levels, with how our communities are represented at tables where money, power, division of power is discussed. And that's the other reason why I'm so passionate about this topic, is because it's not just about the organization, but it's what it represents as a whole.
Well, and it's funny because as you touched on diversity on the last week's show, we were discussing that and just the lack of diversity. Share with us your thoughts on the impact to an organization that lack diversity at the highest level. What are you seeing that can hurt for an organization?
Well, seeing it in the hospital system, I think is the biggest impact. When you, at the highest levels of a hospital, for example, and I'm not referring specifically to any hospital that I have worked for, but when you don't have diversity at the top levels, and you have underrepresented groups who are likely underinsured or not insured, and they are coming to the emergency room as their healthcare, and the assumption is often made, and I have seen this, the assumption is made that, oh, you're here because you are a drug addict or something that is your fault, so we are not going to treat you in a way that is respectful. And when that either turns the community off, so I'm not going to go get the health care that I need, I'm not going to go get the help that I need, or I'm here because I'm in so much pain, so much discomfort, that I can't help it but be here, but I may not follow through with my follow-up appointment because of the way that I was treated. And so again, you've got these underrepresented communities who also, by the way, have the highest levels of, when we talk about healthcare disparities, the disparity is so great as well, that we begin to see those effects again trickling down with higher death rates. Higher death rates, poorer outcomes.
So, and that's huge. That's definitely huge. It almost feels what's the word I'm looking for? I'll come back to it. I'll definitely come
Okay.
back to it. So, what you said earlier, again, I'm big on breaking down some of the percentages you gave,
Mhm.
and you said 3% represented what
At
portion
the
again?
C level.
C-level suite, got it.
Yeah.
And the 28% represented.
The senior vice president level.
Got it. Wow. So, are you seeing that heavy more in a certain industry, or is it just across the board? As based on that survey, did it say, out of that 28%, 17% is in healthcare, or oil and gas, or real estate? What did that look like? Is there any information on that?
Right. In the particular study that I reviewed, there wasn't a breakdown.
Okay.
And so, from what I have seen personally in my research across the board, in even at conferences, it is across industries. I'm sure there are certain industries, probably the entertainment industry has a
Hmm.
little bit more representation, but not a lot more, at the highest levels. But I would say that it is across industries, and that it is a concern, it is a topic and a goal that every organization, every industry should have.
What are some of the pluses that you've experienced in your journey in relationships, in mentorship that you've come across? What's been your personal growth from that?
Being able to think outside of myself. So, we all have our personal challenges
Hmm.
as humans in general. And so, I am someone who can, it takes a lot to get me to rise, to be, angry, or I'm a very calm, steady person. But when I get to that place, it's helpful for me in the relation in the advice that my mentor has given, to remember to what is my goal here in these conversations. what how can I bring myself back? I think that's been my biggest takeaway. My second one, I would say, is it's that same thing, but in crucial conversations. So one of my areas of growth is having hard conversations. And so my mentor has definitely helped me with, what is the purpose of the conversation? How can we start off with that mutual understanding? How can I start off a conversation where it's not accusatory? That has been one of my biggest growths, in working with a mentor.
That's good. That's some good stuff there. And what would you say is, excuse me, has been, so I guess when you're so as, if I can get my words correct,
Yeah.
sort out as a mentor, are you currently mentoring some folks now, whether it be in the company or outside the company, that you're, as you embark on this journey?
I can't help but mentor people. I will be honest with you. I joke about it at work. Like, I feel like if you perhaps don't have the highest level of leader, or if your leader is kind of struggling, I look at you as an orphan and I bring you in under my wing. And whether that's a formal structure, from an organizational chart perspective, or informal, I want to see that every team member who I'm working with has an opportunity to succeed, has an opportunity to rise. And if you don't rise to that occasion, then that is, something that we have to discuss in terms of next steps. But I act as both a mentor and a sponsor whenever I see an opportunity for a team member to try something new. Even if they're nervous, I will let them know I am here with you every step of the way, but this is the next step for you to take. And it's always exciting for me to see them thrive and to see them gain that recognition. So, yes, I do act as a mentor currently in my workplace. I am always open to people who reach out to me via LinkedIn or any other way to also mentor them, especially those who are coming out of school or just getting into, graduating, just getting into their career, and really wanting to say, like, what does this roadmap look like? That's the one thing that I kind of started my career just pie in the sky. I was just happy to have a job. And this is actually my second career. I started off in writing and as a technical writer and testing in computer spaces and websites when they were barely babies. When websites were just coming on board, I remember testing being able to purchase something online with a credit card. So um, I appreciated your reference to me being a young lady. I will always take it. But that does age me a little bit. But that was my first career in the technology space. And so in the second career, I said I didn't want to be in management. I didn't want to be a leader after my master's. I just wanted to be a registered dietitian, go to work and come home. And I fell into leadership and very quickly realized that this was something that I wanted to pursue, and continue to pursue, for the impact that I saw I could have on people's lives, and then on the both the people who I served and the people who I served through being their leader. I saw that as an opportunity, but I still didn't have a roadmap. So it's been, a bit of a zigzag. And so I love having the opportunity to work with people, to help them set up that career path.
Good. Okay. Okay. So let me get your perspective on this as you were talking, and let me know if you've done this or do this or have received this during that coaching, mentoring, sponsorship phase. Where I know if I've done it, whether it been an African American colleague or someone uh, junior in nature in their career, I always gave them that advice on how to navigate the situation, not only just from a standardized corporate, this is the way you should think about this, think 3 steps ahead, but then also as a African American, you need to be mindful of XYZ. Have you always peppered in, or have you peppered in the traditional path or traditional advice, but then say, hey, let me sprinkle a little bit more on you because you're African American. You need to be also mindful of, a perception of who you are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's just the reality of life. We look different, people approach us differently. And so part of mentorship is helping to navigate that, what people's perceptions are, and to be prepared. Nothing is worse than being unprepared for that comment that may throw you off, that you're now thinking about for the rest of the day or the rest of your life, that you weren't prepared, or that you didn't, either that you didn't act the way you wanted to, or that you acted out in a way that you didn't want to. And so being prepared and having those conversations is key. The research is out there, the studies are out there. So one thing that I mentioned at the start of the conversation is that studies are showing, or have shown, research has shown, that Black women are not given credit for their work. So let's talk about, how do you ensure that you are being credited for the work that you do? It's making sure you're sending an email, making sure that you are documenting the work that you have done, so that there is a trail. Because unfortunately, sometimes you need that trail. You need that documentation to show, especially at that annual evaluation.
Yeah.
Don't let the year go by without having documented what you did, what your part in the project was. So that's very real, concrete advice that doesn't make us the victim. It doesn't make that person the victim, but it helps them to take action and be prepared.
Love that advice. Love that advice. Basically, journal all your accomplishments or participations in certain projects, to keep track, because
Yeah.
it's no matter what level of leadership you are, middle, senior, and then C level, they're always going to praise and basically denounce that leader, like what went wrong or you did great, and it's like, well, the leader didn't do as much.
Yes.
They've guided,
Absolutely.
it varies based on companies. You
Yes,
know,
absolutely. The
but
greatest piece of advice, that one of the greatest pieces of advice, was actually through professional development that my one of my previous organizations paid for, which I that's one of the ways that you can structure mentorship, is bringing someone into your organization, and we're having them work with people who you see having the potential. So I had the opportunity to have this training, and what she recommended was, every single Friday, send out your successes, 3 challenges, and 3 deliverables for what you are going to accomplish in the next week. And at the end of the year, you have 52. Yeah. Yes. I was like, wait, how many weeks are in the year?
don't worry, no one's a mathematician here. Don't worry.
Night, at the end of the year, printing off all of those sheets of paper, you have a record of your accomplishments. And so you're not having to worry about, I forgot about this, or, as you prepare and do your self evaluation. And if you're not doing a self evaluation before your evaluation, please take time to do that, so that you go in prepared as well, as your greatest advocate. But that was, even if you're not sending it to anyone and just sending it to yourself, and you have it there in your email in a folder, that is the best way to prepare and remember all of the work that you have done.
Yeah, I want to talk to you offline on that idea itself. I don't
Yeah.
want to steal it, so I'm not going to say that else. But I love that idea. I know you know where I'm going with that. So share with us, some of the difficult conversations, and the reason why, I want to uncover some of the difficult stuff. So,
Mhm.
and be completely frank, some of our, our white viewers and listeners and people that we know and friends and colleagues kind of understand, right, what we go through as African Americans in corporate America. It doesn't even have to be corporate America. It could be
Yeah.
a blue collar job or whatever, but it's more prevalent, when it comes to corporate America where you're in whatever level of leadership. Share some of those difficult conversations with a mentor that you're mentoring or a mentee that you're mentoring that you've may have had to be like, wow, I can't believe we're still going through this.
Well, I'll share a story that led to a conversation with a mentor and how to work through it, and I share it because I didn't handle it the best way, so it's one of those situations that I still work through myself. But I was in a meeting and in a hospital, and we were talking about regulatory issues, and there was one particular department that was really being that we were addressing the challenges. Let's put it that way. We were addressing the challenges. However, the leader for that department was not present in that meeting. We certainly had to discuss the challenges, but then action items were being created. And I spoke up to say that while I understand the urgency and I understand the importance, because this leader was not in the room, that we should pause on this particular agenda item and either have a smaller meeting at another time with the key players and that team member and report back to the committee as a whole, or we just table this part of the meeting and wait until our next meeting and when that leader was present. Orlando, I am a very calm person. So the way I said it to you is the way I said it in the meeting. It was just
Hmm.
matter of fact. At that time in the meeting, everyone else is very, animated and angry and like, what's happening in that department? But I still came in the same way that I'm speaking to you. A colleague who I would have considered a friend and a mentor to me, who's Caucasian female, afterwards in the hallway said, "Well, angry black woman." It
Wow.
threw me off that someone who I would say all of the things that I just shared to answer that question, I trusted her. She had wise counsel. I did consider her a friend. And today I still do consider her a friend. She completely threw me off. And I realized how standing up in a situation where no one else was for a leader who is not very popular and not someone who I particularly enjoyed working with either, but standing up in a situation and for what I felt was doing the right thing. It wasn't that my it wasn't that what I said was addressed, it went to my race. Immediately went
Hmm.
to my race because it was unpopular in the room, and it did stop the conversation and they did move on, but it wasn't a popular comment. And because it wasn't a popular comment, it became about my race. Instead of just saying, I'm angry that you said what you said and you shouldn't have said anything, I was just minimized to my race. You're an angry black woman, especially when I was speaking exactly how I'm speaking to you. And let me tell you, even if I was animated, more animated, there still would have been no excuse for that.
Hmm.
So I share this story. It doesn't answer your question because I didn't actually have the conversation that I needed to have with her because I felt put in a box and I didn't want to debate my race. And that's often what happens when we get into these conversations is that it feels that you have to defend your race or that you're debating your race, and your race is who you are. Like it is it is part of my fabric. So it's not up for debate, but these conversations can turn into that. And so it makes it, I know for me personally, difficult to initiate sometimes these conversations. In the past it used to. I no longer do that. Um, but in the past, it used to. So I didn't address it in that situation. And the reason that I think about it, it wasn't fair to me, but it also wasn't fair to her for me not to address it and tell her that she had stepped out of line and why she had stepped out of line and crossed a line with me, to give her an opportunity to say, I'm sorry or not, and for me to understand our relationship. Again, we've moved past that, but that was because I had to let it go. In another situation, I had a colleague who actually was a team member of mine, but she was older than me, more experienced in healthcare. And so, not necessarily a mentor, but certainly someone who I went to for advice regarding certain situations. And so she used to love to say, Karen, I love you. I don't see color. And it would always rub me the wrong way. And for those of you who may wonder why that is offensive, um, I'll take an opportunity to say, like, you should see my color, because when you say you don't see my color, it is, or when you say to someone that you don't see their color, you're erasing who they are. And part of who I am is a Black woman, and I'm okay with that. And when you say I don't see your color, it's as if something is wrong,
Yeah.
and there is nothing wrong. So it is okay to see my color and acknowledge it and say to me, I still love you and think you're great. Like, like, I see your color as a white woman, and I love you and I think you're great. It's okay to acknowledge color and that we are all different races. And so it was probably around the time of the first kind of uprising with the Black Lives Matter. And I just said, I have to speak my mind. I have to be able to share what I'm feeling. And she came into the room talking about the Black Lives Matter at that time and said, but I don't see color. And I immediately corrected her. It was a gentle correction, but I told her in all the ways that when you say something like that, at least to me, it minimizes who I am. I am a Black woman, and you should see the fullness of who I am if you are saying that you are a friend of mine. And she said, I am sorry. I had never thought of it or considered it like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. It's crazy that the woman would actually say that. Angry Black woman.
Yeah.
That's crazy that they was actually come across, really fix their mouth to say that in this
Yeah.
day and time. But also mentioning, I don't see color, that can come off in so many ways. It's almost like they're saying, in like, Karen, I see you, but I don't see your handicap,
Yes.
or I
Yes.
don't see your personal barrier for being Black.
Yes.
Don't worry about that. I don't see that way.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, no. And for folks who work with African Americans, we're not leading with being Black. We're just trying to lead and excel, right?
Right.
So it's not like, wow, look at all these white folks I work around, and oh my God, anybody, is anybody in it? And we still kind of have that in the back of our heads of,
Mm-hmm.
wow, we don't see too many of us in the space, but either way, we're still trying to, excel as professionals.
Absolutely. And that does go back to the conversation of imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
When you are when part of you is minimized in that way, you do begin to wonder, well, do I need to assimilate and, like, also lose part of who I am? Do I
Right.
show up as who I am? And if I show up as who I am, then is that somehow, am I going to be penalized for that? And then you're just in that constant tension. And that also is what plays into imposter syndrome with, do I even deserve to be here if you are telling me you don't see me? But what if I do something where you do see me? Will that now change our relationship?
Yeah, it's almost like this is invisible presence, that maybe we only pick up on. You go into the room, you're at
Yeah.
this, you have your seat at the table, and they're almost like, how did you get here?
Yes. Yep.
Despite your pedigree, despite your accomplishments, the work ethic, how many years you've invested, whatever, the
Mhm.
same career path.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're like, wow, really?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is crazy. So, wow, time has flown. I want to
Oh.
be mindful, but
Mm.
I want to share, or actually have you share with folks what's next for you. If can I hint to I'm hinting it live here to your podcast. I'm just gonna put it
Yes.
out there. Yeah.
Thank you, Orlando. Yes, absolutely. Next week, I am launching my own podcast called Leadership Untitled. Thank you. Thank you. It will be here on LinkedIn as well. And the title, I've shared with Orlando, it is an homage to Black women, women of color who are called upon to fix challenging situations, step into challenging situations, that influential but informal leadership that is often unrecognized, whether that is through public praise, through promotion, through compensation. And truly it's an homage to that. It is about leadership. I help women of color to navigate corporate politics, gain momentum in their careers, and refine their leadership skills. And I'm excited to be able to talk more about all of those things in my podcast.
Love that title. I need to be a private investor.
Uh, welcome. Welcome.
Because that is going to explode.
Thank you.
That podcast is going to explode. But I'm super happy for you. Folks are already chiming in. Congrats. So give them the title one more time so they know what date and time. What's the
Oh, okay. Well, now we're gonna go there. Okay.
Accountability. We're the accountability part.
Yes, absolutely. Let me pull up my calendar. No. It is Leadership Untitled. Leadership Untitled. It will air on Wednesdays, bright and early in the morning, but you can watch the replay. It is at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. So you can either listen to it while you're getting ready for work, on your way to work, or later once you have arrived into work. It will be a mix of expert guests sharing their stories, experiences, expertise, as well as some solo casts with me sharing my experience and stories as well.
Love it. So share with the folks where they can connect with you other than LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is the best place, but if you also want to find me, you can find me on Facebook with the same name, Kareen Turner, or on Instagram, Karen V as in Victor Turner as well. And yeah, those are the main places where you'll find me. LinkedIn is definitely the best place.
Awesome. That is actually a book title too. So
yes, believe me, all of the things have been captured. All of the websites, all of the things have been captured. So,
absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Karen, I definitely appreciate it. I appreciate the newfound friendship and partnership in this podcast journey. And for the folks that are in that journey with us on the Facebook team, Facebook group there, wishing them success as well. But again, thank you so much for your insight, your vision. I look forward to seeing the launch of that. I will absolutely tune in at 7:30. Again, Leadership Untitled.
Yes.
And I wish you tremendous success, because that's gonna shake the ground in some areas that needs to be shaken.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on tonight, Orlando. And thank you to everyone who is here, and your words of congratulations and questions. I very much appreciated it.
Thank you. Stay with me, and we'll jump back into the green room, and I'll close this out real quick.
All right.
Hey, everybody. Thanks again for watching another episode of Career Talks. My sole mission is to provide actionable advice for job seekers that will impact their career and ultimately their life. But I need your support. So if you can simply subscribe to the podcast so I can take this message further, I would greatly appreciate it. I look forward to your support, and I'll see you next week.